I've made about $40,000 in the past 36 days of day trading and swing trading, and I'm going to show you why this day was my very first loss. So, from a basic perspective, if you've seen my other videos, you know what my logic is with this. But past 4 days, all the market's been doing is essentially going up. We of course know the market doesn't always go up, hence my quote unquote loss today. And if we go to just today's specific chart to show you where my entry was in this little specific spot at about 10:10 a.m. CST. And then as you can see later on at about 125, it rocketed down massively basically. And over here, I entered a trade for about, what was it? I think I put 30 or $40,000 into the trade because if we go back to the past 4 days or so, it was the low of 590, then boom up to here, the low of 598, so boom up to here, and so on and so forth. It was just going up. And even with hindsight, I mean, if we go back to just today, right? It went from here, and it still went up if I would have held it even longer, right? But you still may be asking the question of, well, oh my God, if you put in about 40K here, how much dang money did you lose if it went all the way down here? Well, I don't have the answer to it because I didn't sell it down here. I also didn't sell it over here. And unfortunately, I didn't hold it and sell it over here. I sold it about right here. So if we go to my monitor tab over here from the P&L, for SPY today, all I lost was $28. That's my quote unquote first loss for the entire year from January 1st to February 6th. It's $28 of a loss. And just use this as a learning lesson for yourself. Just because at the time you enter a trade and you have the idea, whatever your strategy is, that it's going to be going up to the moon, and when you think about it, if you enter the trade, it starts going up in the next 5 minutes and it starts pulling back directly. That's fine. That's okay. And then it goes over here and you're in the red from a swing trading perspective, right? Then it goes back up. You're back at break even. You're like, okay, that's interesting. Then it went back down for like a loss. Then it goes back up to break even, slight win. Then back to break even right here to a loss. To back to break even here, and it goes up. It's obviously not going anywhere. I mean, by here I was confused. I kept looking back at Thinkorswim. This is at 10:10, and then I looked back at like 11:25. I was at break even, and I looked back again at like 12:10. I had not made any money. So I was like, apparently it can't go up any further at this specific point in time. So I'm going to get out. I was being a little hard-headed, waited a little bit longer, and I got out over here in this little specific spot over here for basically break even, or I guess quote unquote the loss of $28, even though I've made 40,000. So I guess I've made 39,900 and whatever the heck the number is. I guess. And as you can see, being able to break even is great, or have a slight loss is great. So I could prevent this because I don't know what this loss would have been, but I would imagine it would be maybe somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 of a loss. And if I would have held it, sure, it would have made money. But I don't want to go through the pain of this because it's the question of, well, what if it didn't go back up, right? And sure, if we go back to the strategy based off of everything, if we kind of zoom in essentially, right, this bottom piece is 602 for the low, and 602 is the stop loss would be at this bottom of here. So 602 is this wick here, of course, right? So I wasn't supposed to stop out, and it did go back, yada, yada, yada. That's fine, right? But for me, I can't interrupt the strategy and get out at break even if it's not going in my favor. I'd prefer that as a backup plan because I'd rather be right immediately and it goes up and I stay in profit versus not right immediately because something apparently is wrong and then it goes down and then I'm potentially screwed because it stopped at 602. But what if it did stop at the 601? And again, to go a little bit deeper on it from a different avenue, here's why I knew this was a very important zone here. Because I don't think I've showed that in other videos. Let's switch this to the hourly chart. So keep in mind those zones were on the daily chart that I just drew them on. But we switch to the hourly chart here. You can see this is where the zone is still, right? We tried to take the trade off of like the balance, etc., over in this little specific spot. But you can see it's like it's hit it and kind of rejected, but it's not visually that great looking. It looks like it kind of did ignore it, almost like the zone wasn't important. But sometimes you can do this just to get you a better visual of things because things happen in the extended hours. If you go over here, click check mark this, click apply, everything in the gray are the extended hours essentially. If we zoom in, look at how it is now. There's all this happening, fine. Let me zoom in over here specifically. Hit this area and then it fell down. Came up perfectly after hours, fell down. Came up during market hours and then right after the after hours, fell down. Came up after hours, little small tap, and it went up. after hours, basically a small tap and went up, which was proof that it was going to be weaker, right? It was already got tapped here. In the morning, it tapped here. I wanted to enter the call once as soon as it hit this, but if I'm being realistic, I was asleep, so I just didn't take the call. It is what it is. Which is why, FY, why you don't see me taking trades every single day based on the strategy, because I sleep in a lot. It is what it is. I don't want to have to always take trades every day and make a whole bunch of money. I don't care at the moment. I just take the nice trades when they set up. Maybe they're later in the day, maybe they're in the afternoon, but I just have to be awake. This is what it is. You don't have to take every goddamn trade. And if it doesn't go your way, sell for break even. Slight profit, slight loss, whatever. But you can see still, right? It still came into the zone and bounced up as a whole. So there's a very, very, very respected area. It's just I like, as an example, in the after hours when it hit this and it fell down. Hit this and it, for the most part, fell pretty dramatically down. Not as dramatic as this, but fell down during market hours. Hit this and then it went up. Like I'd prefer, like for me to take this trade and stay in the trade, I would have liked for it to hit this and then just start running up. So coming back here and then like start running up just very cleanly without these big pullbacks, without the sideways action. Like this was a very, if we go back to the 5 minute chart as a whole, very choppy day until the 1:30, 1:30, yeah, 1:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m. CST mark when it did that huge nosedive downward, followed by the retracement back upward. And of course, it retraced back up because if we go back to that daily chart, in theory, I was still right that we are in the uptrend. So that's my quote unquote first loss for 2025. So still massively up from a profitability perspective. All the trades are on the YouTube page. Call them out every single time before I'll actually do the trade. And so hopefully you can learn from this video on how to break even and why breaking even is the most important thing possible for you to actually do.